Hey, welcome to Web3 Weekly with your host, Blockstar Technology.
Let's go.
Hi guys, so today we have Ben from Collective Shift. Hi to the Twitter Nation and the Insta Nation and all the social media platforms. Ben, thank you so much for joining us today for our podcast, for our 20th episode of our podcast today. So, my God, it can't believe like this is our 20th. It's gone by so fast. So today joining on my left we have Craig and Charlie and Maureen.
Okay.
So let's get into it. So Ben, again, thank you for joining us. Why don't you give us a little bit of an intro about you, mate?
Yeah, awesome, guys, and congrats on 20 episodes. I've just started a podcast myself, and it's bloody hard. So, so my name's Ben. I'm from Tasmania originally, currently down here. My family down here, and my background, I'm a big sports fan. I got into sports apparel when I was 15. I was manufacturing like sports uniforms out of Pakistan and China and selling them to sporting teams out here in Tassie. So I started that when I was 15, grew that to about mid six figures by 17, convinced mum and dad, thankfully, that I could quit school. So they let me quit school and followed my pursuit of sports apparel uniforms, which I quickly realised that wasn't that exciting when I found out of this thing called Bitcoin. So a friend introduced it to me back in early 2017. He sent me $100 of Bitcoin and I was just completely blown away. I was like, oh my God, what just happened? And just went down this rabbit hole of trying to learn about this space. And, coming from Tasmania, like I'm not overly book smart necessarily, so it was really complicated to try and figure out what this Bitcoin thing was, and what's this blockchain, and what's DeFi, and what's smart contracts, and what's like all this stuff in this space. And I couldn't really find a good information source to help me learn about it in a language that I understood. There's a lot of developers, there's a lot of YouTubers pumping all sorts of different stuff. I got scammed, I was buying crappy altcoins. We've all been there, we all went through the ringer. But I knew this space was really going to be game changing. So I joined a crypto company in 2017, worked there for 3 or 4 years, just doing operations, marketing, a few different things, and just really opened my eyes to this space, which led me into launching Collective Shift, which is my current company. So we launched that in October 2020. And we're basically an education and research company for everyday people. So anyone that has a full-time job, they have a family, they have a business, for example, and they want to navigate this space, they probably don't have the time to do it themselves, and they probably don't want to go on YouTube and trust, necessarily some of the people on there, because we've all seen the rug pulls and promoting cryptocurrencies and all sorts of stuff that goes on. So we're building a trusted platform. We have a team of 6 analysts that provide market analysis and really give confidence back to people trying to get in this space so we can help them invest the right way.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Because I remember, I think I seen you pop up maybe mid to late 2018 on, I think it was just like an interview and you were starting Collective Shift at that stage, or just talking about crypto trading in general. So congrats on how far you've come, man. Awesome work on that. From the 2017-18 to now, what's been some funny stories in the industry, Ben, that you've come to, that you've gone through? I know, I going through at one stage, Bitcoin down to 3,000, ETH at $100, and we lived through that, traded through that. You had your business running through that. Give us some funny stories from there, man.
Man, 2018, that was a dark year. I remember us looking at the books and we're like, right, there's not much revenue, there's a lot of expenses. What are we doing? We basically cut. We basically weren't being paid. It was like, working. As we all know, it was like there was not much interest in the space, and I think Bitcoin was sitting around 6,000 or 7,000. Like, surely it can't get any worse. And then we had that sharp down to 3.5.
Armageddon.
I think I questioned, probably 3 or 4 times, is this really what I want to be doing? This is just ridiculous. And I'm glad I stuck through it, because it's so easy, I think, to get caught up in the mainstream narrative in bear markets. Mainstream media love a good story. They love a good crypto negative story. And we've seen it the last year when prices have gone down, especially the whole FTX drama and all the other stuff that's gone on. Media really grapple onto it. But, what's fascinating about crypto and probably what I've learned so much about this space is just human psychology and how fast it changes and how much of a sheep mentality people have when they don't know enough about this space. If you go back to November, December, just like 2 or 3 months ago, this space was super bearish. People going, it's going to zero, it's a scam. People wouldn't even consider it, right? All of a sudden, we've had a 25% increase in a week, and all of a sudden there's FOMO back, and people, think they missed the boat again. Like, fascinating. Crypto really, I think, gets into the human psychology because anyone can invest. It's 24/7. And you're in complete control. You don't have to have a financial advisor. You don't have to be an accredited investor. You don't have to have all these minimum requirements. Anyone can do it. And I think that's the most exciting thing about crypto.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. This market, if you're not in it for the long term, and I went down my rabbit hole of margin trading on BitMEX and Binance, FTX, and this market will chew you up and spit you out. You can be the best trader in the world, and yeah, the winners seem to be the hodlers, people that just buy and play it out.
My worst investing mistake would have been, so I went to DevCon, the Ethereum conference back in 2018, and Kane Warwick was talking about what is now Synthetics. It wasn't called Synthetics back then, it was called Haven.
Yeah.
And this was a sub $5 million market cap, currency at the time. And I was listening to him going, oh my goodness, it's going to be massive. Bought a heap of Haven back then. Didn't do anything. The price didn't do anything for 6 to 8 months. I'm like, oh, right, bad choice. This is boring. Sold all of it, and literally probably a few months later, they migrated to Synthetics, and now it's I don't know what it is now, hundreds of millions on market cap. I think it hit over $1 billion at one stage.
Yeah.
And you sort of look back at the napkin, it's that could have been.
Isn't it? Wow.
But that's the lessons you learn in crypto. It's you got to be patient. I think hodling is the best game. I personally don't trade. I think I'd be a terrible trader. I'm too emotional. So I tend to just hold on, and that's what we try to teach Collective Shift. It's holding good assets, dollar cost averaging, building up your portfolio, and setting yourself up. I don't think you can go wrong over a 4 to 5 year period if you're getting in now.
100%.
Yeah.
So Ben, you just touched base on you start on Bitcoin. You heard about Bitcoin, and you pivoted from apparel to crypto. I don't think it's going to be just oh, I heard about Bitcoin, let me jump on Bitcoin. So what was the inflection point for you to leave your apparel business that you started in your school, and you had manufacturing, there's a bit of a procurement operation, right? And so what was that, what we call the inspiration point that for you to just say, okay, I'm going to go all in crypto? What really made you that? What was the shift? Oh, wow. Yeah. What was the shift in there?
Yeah, I think, so when I was running my sportswear apparel company, I was sending Australian dollars to China, and I had to send it through some, the bank wouldn't do it. I had to do it through some international transfer thing. I'd have to send it to US dollars and then to Chinese yuan, and it would take weeks to arrive. It'd be a 4 or 5% fee, plus they'd take a clip on the exchange rate. I'm like, what is going on? This is ridiculous.
Yes.
And it was delaying the time I could produce the goods to our clients. So our clients were getting shitty because they weren't getting their garments in time. And it's well, I'm waiting for the money to arrive so the factory can send it. And I think it was just at that time when, I was sitting with my friend, he's showing me this thing about Bitcoin, and I downloaded the Coinbase wallet. He's like, watch this. He just sent me $100, and that, it just landed.
Wow.
I was like, holy moly, what just happened?
Yes.
And that was the real starting point. And then as I went down, I started to question, and I think the rabbit hole for me opened up when I started to question things like, fiat currency. Why is the money in our wallet worth what it is? How does it create that value? Why does the government get to decide what the value is? Why do they get to print money? How does that work? Can you just print money out of thin air? Hold up, is that legal? Why isn't anyone talking about this? Completely went down that whole journey, and I think the thing for me was the fact that so many people just don't know what's actually going on in the fiat currency. Look at what inflation's done over the last couple of years. Look at the cost of living. Look at property prices, and this is real. I was talking to some friends here in Tasmania, they're talking about how much their grocery bill now is, compared to a couple of years ago. It is extraordinarily higher, but yet employment and wages and salaries aren't necessarily increasing. So the purchasing power of holding cash continues to decrease.
Yep.
So this thing called, Bitcoin, when I learned, the idea of its limited supply, it's not controlled by anybody, it's completely your money. It has these deflationary mechanisms and it's code and software that I understood, not people and humans making decisions. That was just like, okay, this thing's going to be massive. Why don't more people know about this?
I mean, that's go ahead.
So I was just going to ask, I'm assuming that you were then looking at Bitcoin as a way, as a method of paying your supply. Did they accept Bitcoin at the time, or?
I tried to get them onto it. Unfortunately, they weren't too overly keen to get set up back in 2017. I think stable coins now they probably would. So we have a few employees over overseas that we pay. Depending on what they want. Some guys want Bitcoin, Ethereum, some want stable coins. Back then they weren't too open about it, but I think stable coins as a method of payment now is really exciting. Like the ability, because you still have that volatility in Bitcoin, and I guess that for some people that don't want to hold that asset as that volatility, then paying stable coins are great alternative. So I think blockchain payments as a payments layer, whether it be on the Lightning Network, whether it's stable coins, whether it's whatever currency, I think is going to be definitely the way of the future. I mean, who uses cash now anyway? Some shops don't even accept cash anymore, right? So I think it's something inevitable.
Exactly. That's a really good point, right? I mean, this is where crypto really has the power, right? The cross-border payments. I mean, we talk about it, but given that still people don't really, they get stuck on that whole price fluctuations, but they're not looking at the benefits of having it, and people think it's more like an investment than a utility.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say that's more us in Western countries.
Yeah.
But if you go to some third world countries, or you've got family in third world countries where you want to transfer that money over to, you get hit with the same things Ben was getting hit with as he's running a business, with those fees, and they might not have a lot of money to support their family and send it back there. But with crypto, as long as you've got a smartphone and internet, download that wallet, send it across.
Yeah. I mean, that's and also having your wealth, everything on your phone as well. I mean, that's what I think a lot of people, I have a feeling that, more like the exchanges will really, the more people get on, I think people will use exchange for about, just to exchange it, and they will just come out. I think the more education, I think, will come. I think at the moment, a lot of people are getting hurt because we are still learning, people who are coming in and learning. I think there'll be time the far majority that gone through the ups and downs with the exchanges, there'll be a lot of outside, and they'll be like, okay, no, you use the exchange for the purpose of exchange, not to hold.
Correct. Yeah. They need to be used as a buying and selling mechanism, not a bank. I think that's what we got into trouble last year. Yeah, and I think to be fair, I think that a lot of the blame does need to go back to the players like Celsius, who on their website were promoting themselves as this crypto bank.
Yes.
But for what normal people outside of crypto think about a bank, they think about somewhere that's safe, it's secure, it's insured, they're not going to lose their money. But players like Celsius were taking your assets, trying to earn this yield that was not, they weren't going to be consistent in paying that yield back, so their risk got higher than, doing trades and loaning that capital out, and it all went belly up. So, I definitely think exchanges need to be used, and exchanges will always play their part. It's buy and sell. But I think the bank and the holding of those assets needs to go back to needs to go back to actually getting your cold storage set up.
100%. So the next one I'll talk about is Ben. You had some really good news. You put out the last of 24 to 48 hours. So we would like from here to say congratulations for the the investment that Collective Shift received. And how does it make you feel?
Honestly, it was a big effort. Like, it was primarily like my sort of last 6 months leading up into Christmas. From middle of last year leading up to Christmas was pure fundraising, and it is brutal. I'm not sure if you guys have raised capital at Blockstars, but man, like last year, and it got worse. Like it got harder and harder. Obviously, you had the declining crypto prices, you had confidence with investors declining, and then you had this like overarching macro sort of recession inbounding. Like, you just literally saw investors put their wallet and throw it away, right? So it became harder and harder. But yeah, it's really exciting. Like, I'm really grateful for the investors that backed us. So we've raised our seed round now, and that's really going to be able to help us continue to build out our platform and launch into new markets. One of the deals we've just signed is with the Australian Open. So they have their AO Art Ball, the NFT. So basically, they've just bought 6,000 memberships from us. So basically, each AO Art Ball holder gets a collective shift starter membership. So we're basically helping tennis fans onboard into crypto. They get like this personalized learning experience. So tennis fans can go like step by step on how to navigate NFTs, how to get your MetaMask set up, how to not get scammed, how to set up your portfolio, how to navigate it, etc., etc. So yeah, it's really cool. That's kind of the first big Web2 brand that we've signed on, and hopefully a lot more to come this year. And really trying to help, again, our mission to help everyday people navigate this space with confidence.
Yeah.
So what extent, I know you do educational stuff and you've touched on a few of the different topics you cover. Would you say it's from all the way from beginners to intermediary? Do you cover trading, like investing, to setting up? Like, what sort of education do you actually go through with them?
It's a good question. It's predominantly beginner to intermediate.
Yep.
So it's really our core demographic tends to be people that maybe work, in finance, or they have their own business, or they're in property, or they're already investing in assets, and they want to get into crypto but need guidance to help them through that. So predominantly they'll have an idea about crypto, or maybe they already even own some, but they need some sort of guidance into maybe how to start their portfolio. What is the market doing on a weekly basis, where they only need to spend half an hour a week to be up to date with what's going on. Then they might need some education about, they want to get involved in DeFi, they want to use Uniswap to get this token, and that's all the stuff that we sort of cover. And then on a daily basis, we have a team of 6 analysts. So Checkmate, he's the leading on-chain analyst at Glassnode. He works for us as well. We've got technical analysis, fundamental analysis. So we kind of give a 360-degree view with different opinions on the market to help someone navigate it. And I guess that's the core difference between maybe going to a YouTuber or an influencer, is that they're going to just have one opinion, whether it be right or wrong. That's absolutely fine. But what we do is sort of give you a different opinion with different strategies to help you make your own decision.
Yeah. Ben, on that one, do you go into like educating people on the tokenomics, market cap, volume, and stuff like that to give them that beginner lesson that a lot of people don't know from the starter?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so we've got a pretty sort of structured beginners course for those people that want to go really in depth on the sort of 0 to 1 side of the education. Then we also have individual resources, whether it be learning how token economics work, learning how market cap works, looking at supply mechanisms, looking at like what's the difference between different utility tokens, currency tokens, things like that. Because that's a big missing piece, I think, for a lot of investors coming into space and go, oh, Armani looks cool, let's buy it. Or let's buy the FTX token.
Or Grin. I think, what was it? Grin come out a few years ago where it was just highly inflationary and
you look at some of these coins that have unlimited supply, most of the percentage of the tokens is owned by the founders or VCs, and that was one thing that really frustrated me and made me sad last year, was like the mechanisms of VCs getting early into these tokens at a heavily discounted price.
Yeah.
And their vesting periods would literally be like at the point where it opens up to retail. So VCs are buying at 8 cents, it comes out to retail at 14 cents. VCs can then sell all their tokens at 14 cents for the retail to come in, the price will pump, and then it just literally dump. VCs will walk away with all the money, and retail will be holding with an empty bag. Yeah. And that just happened over and over and over and over and over again last year. So hopefully people can start to learn from that, and we've been putting out a lot of stuff around that to help our members and sort of our audience like navigate that, because that's the world we live in, right? That people with money make more and people that don't lose. Like, it's kind of it sucks.
So Ben, can you give us an idea of the real process you followed from start to where you are now, like how you got here, what you did, the sort of obstacles you had to deal with, the challenges? I know you've spoken about the last 6 months raising money was a challenge, but what other challenges did you face along the way?
Good question. So leading up in the collective shift, I was working for another crypto business. It's called Nuggets News, that some of you may know, but that that sort of ended pretty abruptly when the founder was, doing some stuff that, I wasn't really aware about. That sort of ended pretty abruptly, and that was a really tough period of my life. Like, it was something that, I'd worked with him for a long time, and, I probably would have spoken to him about, him being my mentor and a lot of things, and for that to really blindside me what went on really hurt. And then, I sort of had to salvage what we had at Collective Shift, salvage our team. I had a team of, we still do have a team of 12 or 13 people, like salaries, livelihoods that, was sort of fall on my shoulders really quickly. And I hadn't really done content before then. I hadn't been CEO for like a big company like that. Like, I was sort of just thrown in the deep end. So that was a really, really tough time. And coming out of that, I learned a lot of lessons, right? Whether it be PR lessons, legal lessons, marketing lessons, like, helping the team leadership, like how you navigate through, periods like that was really difficult. So to come out with Collective Shift now, and I mean, it has been difficult, right? The market is the way it is, and it is, I've seen working crypto now in bull and bear periods, the bear market is extremely hard to not only grow, but just even to survive. It's where a lot of businesses go under. So for us, remaining lean, trying to cut back on, where we can and still, invest in areas that are going to make us grow, and making those tough decisions strategically. Who's our product for? We can't be everything for everyone. Who are we going to have to sacrifice, or what area of the business is going to sacrifice to double down in a different area? And that's only an educated guess, right? You never have all the answers. So, it's been a great journey. I brought on one of my business partners, now Aaron Berghuber, is a good mate of mine. He's probably been the biggest, difference that I've made in my business. As you guys probably know, having a great team really does help. So being able to build a really fantastic team now has been really good. And I think the other challenge as well is like I'm naturally a bit of an introvert. If you go back a year ago, I'd never spoken on podcasts, never done any, spoken on stage, never done any, like I would be too scared to, do anything like that. So I've really had to force myself to be more at the forefront, because I think every business needs some sort of like public presence. And I know you guys are, really ramping up your social media, and I love what you guys are doing. I think that's really the right strategy, right? I think content is the variable to success. And like, I was like, righto, stuff it. I'm gonna have to get out there and make this happen. So, flew to the US. I spent 3 months over there. I did courses, went to public speaking training, spoke with a lot of mentors, hired mentors to really learn how to do this game better. And it's been a huge learning experience for me. And I was really lucky to be invited to do a TEDx talk in September last year on crypto and digital assets, which was probably one of the most challenging things I've done. Like, that was 6 months build up. There was a 12-minute talk I had to give with no presentation and no notes, I couldn't read off anything. It had to be fully memorized and approved by TED beforehand. So so that was really tough.
Well done.
It consumed me for a long time. All I could think about was this bloody speech. But really rewarding. So again, I mean, business is like that's the game, right? It's the ups and downs. You sort of ride the wave. I just try and not take the lows too harshly, and not take the highs too high, right? Try and sort of live in the means. I think that's probably I've found that it helps.
No, I think this is really cool. Thank you for that, Ben. I think that's I just want to talk about the that I'm going to touch base on the journey, but before I want to go all the way back to the investment part that you spoke about, right? That's something that one of our pillars here at Blockstars is the investment arm that we have. And over the last sort of 18 months, we have invested in about 10 companies or so in the Web3 space. And I think it's important to understand and be aware as well. Self-awareness is huge because the same thing happened in .com. I don't, you remember, Craig, right? I don't know how old are you, Ben? Maybe, you were like, maybe you were not even born back then.
I'm 24.
Right. So in the, in the 98, to the 2000 time, like everything was like pumping, right? Or the stocks, and everyone want to go IPO. Yeah. And same things happening here, right? And we our founders, we've been in that .com space, and we did a big mistake of not going all in at that point, right? And then here we are after 20 years, after 2 decades, the same opportunity being present to us, right? Yeah. And what we decided in 2020 when we started Blockstars is we are going all in on this technology called blockchain, not on crypto or NFT, but on the blockchain. So we made that pledge, and since then it's we have been really helping other companies to bring them up on the through in this space, because I think it's important to look at how we can help the projects, how we can help other companies, because some of the founders got awesome ideas, right? But they don't have the power behind them, the mentorship or the funding or the strategic partnerships, right? For them to take their idea to the next level.
Yeah.
As much as the passion is there, but I think you need the structure around it, the system.
Yeah.
And so what we have done is we have done that over the last sort of I don't know 2 years and a little bit longer, and it's when you and we notice that a lot of the VCs when there's a market the bear market for them, they just like you said they throw the wallet out, where we have just given, like we have been we have been spending money for investment and all those. We've been spending like a drunken sale at a bar, and we know that it's for the next 5-10 years until we build a space, right? And people who stuck through the gutter during the .com and look where they are now, right? We know some of the companies like PayPal, Amazon, and Google, and those companies, eBay. But there are hundreds of other companies that we don't really hear, but they done very well, 200-300 million, half $1 billion. But we're hearing all these huge companies, and it's super important. And in your journey, Ben, with regards to the investment, for our listeners, can you please explain a little bit, extrapolate that? How did you get started, if you could? How you get started? What was the process like? What are the pain points are, please?
Specifically around fundraising?
Yes, fundraising, yes.
Yeah, so I tried to start raising, 2023? End of 2021, I tried to start to raise here in Australia, and I went to a few VCs. I've never raised money before, I had no idea what I was doing. Went to a few VCs, I basically got laughed out of the room. It was terrible, my deck was terrible, the story was terrible, everything was just bad, and kind of got laughed out of the room. And after about 20 or 30 meetings, I'm like, okay, right, I don't know what I'm doing, this was bad, I need to go figure this out. So I went to the US, and I went to Texas, and I went and started the Startup Accelerator. So I did, it was but specifically around fundraising. So it was called New Chip out of Austin, Texas, and it was an online course so I could do it back at home.
Yep.
And then I hired a couple of mentors specifically around fundraising. So I had a guy that runs a VC firm and also another angel investor. Brought them on as mentors. So I paid them to come on and help me figure out my deck, my story, and then who I was going to go and reach out in terms of investors. So I completely changed, and I read, I can't remember the book now, but I read a book around fundraising, and it completely changed the whole mentality I had around fundraising. It went from this thing of unstructured, just talking at people that probably weren't ever going to invest into us to begin with, that didn't have the information, to this structured journey of storytelling and creating urgency and creating this business that people wanted to invest in, not this kind of semi-desperate, who's this kid, what are they talking about? Does that make sense? So as soon as I did that process, we spent 3 months reviewing everything and then went back to investors. It was a game changer, and that was where we brought in the Smorgan family, so one of the biggest family offices in Victoria.
Yep.
Luke, he's a member of ours. That was the first tipping point that we were able to gather momentum.
Yep.
We then had a VC firm over in San Francisco, R&R Capital. They're backed by JP Morgan, which was amazing to get them on board as well, to get someone overseas. And those connections and conversations really happened when I was out in the trenches. I went to the US, I lived in the US for 3 months. I was in Singapore for a month. I went to Dubai for 2 months. And I was just literally in the trenches, day after day, meeting with investors, trying to get introductions, grinding. It was really hard.
Yeah.
One VC conversation I had went for 4 months. I had 9 conversations with them, due diligence, projections, numbers, everything, and they said no at the 11th hour. Like it's soul destroying.
Yeah.
Like any founder wanting to raise capital, it really is tough. But if you have I think it's about having a good product and a good team to help run the business while you're away. Because the reality is like you're not going to have the same time that you invested in the business if you're out there raising capital or doing it properly. And I found it's all about momentum. So as soon as I started to do like half my time investing, half my time trying to run the business, it'd just all fall to shit.
Yeah.
Because there'd be no momentum, conversation, I'd forget where I'm at. Like, it just wasn't happening. I had to be fully focused on investing. I had an assistant that helped me. We had a CRM, and it was just like grinding day after day, meeting, conversations, texting, coffees, and just going hard. And then that's kind of the truth of it. Like it was just hard work, honestly.
Yeah.
Hopefully I don't have to do it again for a long time.
Ben, if you remember the name of that book, would you mind sharing it with us and our listeners?
Yes, of
later
course.
on, obviously
Yeah.
not now.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Awesome.
a practical book. It's written by a founder that's raised a bunch of money before, and he sort of just lays out step by step how to do it, and I followed that. It was really a game changer. So yeah, I'll share it with you
Great,
after this.
thanks so much.
That's great. So based on that, Ben, if you had to give like 3 quick pointers to anyone who's looking at raising funds, what would those 3 pointers be?
Yeah, it's a good question. One, I think it's about, if you're in crypto specifically, you need to have a product that people are using. So I've seen and met with a lot of founders and spoke to a crap load of investors over the last year. And what I've heard from them is what made us unique was we had a product that people were using, that loved it, that was generating revenue, and that had like a clear growth path. A lot of companies in crypto, whether it be NFT projects, blockchain projects, cryptocurrencies, whatever, is kind of like they might have this white paper. And gone are the days where you can just have a white paper, roll up and just launch a huge ICO and make a bunch of money, right? Like that, those days are over.
Yep.
There's so many projects out there now. You need to be unique. So I think it's having a good product that people are using, having some sort of product market. You don't need to have, explosive growth numbers and crazy volumes, all this sort of stuff. You just need to have a product that people are using and people are loving, and there's a clear sort of journey or clear path to growth. The other one is getting the story right. So I didn't have the story right when I first started. Investors love a good story. Like they need to know how this thing came about, who uses it. So for example, when I first started pitching Collective Shift, I came out talking about our features and the benefits and the technical code that we use. And I realized not many investors really give a crap about that. What changed the game for us is when I came in, I said, the first page of my deck was one of our customers. I said, this is, let's say the name Sam. This is Sam. This is Sam's problems. Sam then found Collective Shift and it solved all of her problems. And now this is her result. And there's millions of Sams out there and they're paying this much for it to get that solution. And this is how we solve her problem.
Yep.
And this is why we do it. And then all of a sudden the investors go through this journey of that makes so much sense. It's like, oh, right, yeah, I can see that. I'm probably a Sam. Cool, I'd use this product. And the first funny story, after the first time I delivered that story, we closed a $200,000 US check in half an hour. And the first call, then half an hour later, they texted me and said, we're in for 200K. Story for sure, number 2. And the third one, I think, is knowing who you want to invest in you. So for me, I didn't want to give up too much equity, and I didn't want to have, and I didn't actually know this when I first started, but VCs, I had heard about it, but VCs are really, I found, can be very difficult to work with. Some VCs are very controlling. They want to have certain terms in the fundraising. They're going to have voting rights, and they're going to be very overarching. One of my core values as a person is freedom and ability to sort of navigate and do the things that I want to do with the business. And I didn't want to have someone looking over my shoulder at all times. That just wouldn't make me happy. So that was a real lesson. I probably spent too much time talking to VCs when really I probably didn't want them anyway. So we went with the family office route, angel investors. We do have a couple of VCs on board, but they were founder led. They weren't these huge big conglomerate VC firms. So that's the 3.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much.
That's a good
That's
question.
great, right? I mean, this is what it is. Like, a lot of people think of like going for the money, but they don't look at the other side of it, how much freedom you have. Like, end of the day, if this is your business, you want to run it how you want it, because that's your baby, right? You don't want anyone, I mean, what's the point of being a CEO of a company like that?
Any business that's going to succeed has the person driving it is ridiculously passionate. And if you're passionate about it, you don't want to give it up. You're not just there to sell it or
No.
give away control. You're passionate about it and want
Which
to be
is
involved.
what we've all spoken about. You'd invest in a person because of that person.
Yeah.
Even if that company fails, I'm sure they're going to come up with another great company, but they're a good person to be working
Yeah.
with. And
Yeah.
they've got the right attitude and values, morals.
And that's exactly it. You just hit the nail on the head.
They know how to pivot, whether that's from apparel to,
To
crypto.
Bitcoin. And,
Even just pivoting the pitch that you're using,
Yeah.
it's important to be that.
it is super important. So I just want to, we are getting close now. So I just want to touch base before we go. Ben, I want to sort of bring this up because this is super important. Ridley from Art Ball or Australian Open Metaverse, he's heading that division for Tennis Australia. He was really, giving roses to you when myself and Charlie met him. And you're like, okay, who's, what's going on? Because it's like an education, you're doing collective shift education, and Australian Open is a traditional sporting body. What is the, so I would like to really, hear from you. What was that collab was built on? The personal relationship that you have with Ridley, because Ridley is such a powerhouse in the space, right? He's doing so much great thing, innovative as well. And we had him on our podcast about maybe 3 or 4 podcasts ago.
Yeah.
And such a nice guy. And, and hearing what, he meant, told us about you and your mission in this process, we would love to hear what that collab, how did it started, and if you can tell us a little bit about that collab, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually met Ridley in New York, of all places. I met him at NFT NYC last year.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what I was going to. It was like the last day, and there was like this Australian meetup. I was like, okay, that's awesome. I'm going to go to the Australian meetup. We're having like Vegemite on toast in this cafe. It was an Australian cafe in Brooklyn. And then met Ridley and the agency Run It Wild that
Yes.
is sort of creating the AOR board, and met all those guys there. And that's kind of where it first started. So Sarah from Run It Wild, I sort of started connecting with, and then Adam, the CEO of Run It Wild, which is the NFT agency. I spent a bit of time with him over in Dubai. He recently moved to Dubai, and I was over there at the same time. So we sort of hung out and started talking about some of the opportunities, I guess, that were on the horizon. And I guess one of the biggest problems for some of these Web2 brands coming into this space is they have a huge audience of people that don't know about crypto, but they have a product to sell to them. So educating those people is a huge task. So in fact, like the AO guys last year tried to educate their users at the time they were doing these videos. It was just a huge headache, right? They were trying to create this content, they had all these questions. It was just like, it was a bit of a nightmare for them. So what they've done this year is basically just being able to outsource that to us. So what we've done is integrated with the AO Art Ball membership, so you can connect. I think it's going to go live tomorrow. You can connect on our site through MetaMask. If you hold an AO ball, you'll get a Collective Shift Starter membership, and then that'll take you to this Australian Open tennis landing page, and basically we sort of go step by step on a personalised learning journey for tennis fans to get into crypto. Or if you're already a bit of a crypto DJ, we have another area where you can go down and see some more advanced stuff, research, portfolio structure stuff, some of our trends and opportunities we're seeing for the coming year, etc. So it was probably a 6-month, so I first saw them or met them middle of last year. So probably a 6-month journey up until this point. But it was really exciting. I didn't even think there was really a B2B angle of that business until probably 6 months ago. So really keen to explore more of that. We want to do more collaborations with different Web3 brands. I love that. I think there needs to be more of it, to be honest. I tweet about this a fair bit. Like, I think there's not enough collaborations and partnerships. I think there's too many people doing too many individual things, where if we actually came together, we could be more united front and deliver more value to people rather than trying to all compete with each other. So that's something we're really keen to develop more this year.
That's so cool, and I think collaboration is like so huge. It's not just for the artists but for businesses as well. The whole Web3 ecosystem, we can really do some collaborations and bring. I think end of the day, it's about adding value to the end users and what are they good, and that's how we should onboard people onto this blockchain or decentralization, new technology. I think not just by having like 100,000 projects, as you said, Ben. Otherwise, people will get rugged and burnt and not enough power behind them. Projects can't keep up. That's awesome.
I would always look at something that was a collab because, as you said, with the rug pulls and things like that, it's less likely that will happen because there's more than one party involved that are going to at least checks and balances on the other. So
And I feel coming into the future, so many brands are going to be jumping into this space and they don't really know what they're doing or know everything, and they need advice and collaborations and
their customers are going to need education as well. It's,
and
it's essentially like Australian Open. Yes, we'll give them this NFT, the ball, but what do they do with it? How do they use it? How do they view it? What is this about? It's very, very important.
Very, very important. And I think they have like really cool. AO had done, or Artball has built a few collabs, and that's fantastic. I mean, they really lifted quite a few brands with them in this space, which is fantastic. I mean, that's what you need from a traditional brand, but they're still doing this amazing work. So
Ben, can I just quickly ask? I won't digress off the topic too much, but how long does it take? I know that you guys do daily stuff with your analysts, but how long would it take a person to work their way through the material that you provide, the educational stuff? You said half an hour a week, but is that half an hour a week for the next 3 years, or like what are we talking? Like
depends if you're talking about my mum or someone. So someone starting out from scratch, I mean, relatively fast. Like if they go through the beginners course, it's about 3 hours. They're pretty much going to get all the sort of foundational information. But I guess where we're seeing more engagement on our platform is those that already have an interest in crypto or are already in crypto, and then the half an hour a week is more around just keeping you up to date with what's going on. So you can log in once a week and see some of the on-chain metrics for Bitcoin, what Bitcoin's doing. And also this year, like we were early to warn our members on like FTX and UST and also Celsius. So before all those platforms blew up, we actually had like a post out to our members to say, hey, get your funds off. We think this is getting pretty ugly. And that's, I guess, the half an hour we say you only need to use Collective Shift to navigate this space. So we're really about trying to simplify it, synthesizing everything, cutting out all the BS and just giving you what you need to know. So if you're already in crypto, it's probably half an hour a week. If you're more of a newbie, depends how much you want to invest, but I'll probably spend a few hours sort of getting familiar with some of the content and educational stuff, and then it's just a matter of how much you want to invest time-wise, really.
And you should never finish learning.
No.
It can be more than 3 years.
I'm still doing it 10 years later.
But that's awesome. Mate, so just to finish off the podcast, what's your vision and mission for Collective Shift going forward?
We want to help at a really simple level. We just want to help people navigate crypto safely and with confidence. That's the other thing, right? You can get into crypto, but you might not have any idea about what you're doing. So we really want to have a really simple, easy to use platform that anyone can use. And there's also a heap of stuff that's for free that you don't need to pay for. So anyone that wants to get started in crypto, whether it be Bitcoin, NFTs, whatever, they can use Collective Shift and invest safely and not I guess, be affected by all the stuff that we've probably all gone through ourselves, right? We want to deliver the lessons that we've learned from the rug pulls, the scams, the bad projects, the bad investments, the bad exchanges, the bad storage, all that, deliver those lessons so new people coming into this space don't go through that same experience, and we can grow this whole space.
It's great.
Awesome.
It's been awesome.
I mean, like on that note, I think we should.
I have one more quick question.
All right.
You got in quick.
I've enjoyed hearing the story and everything else, but over your entire journey, in this space, what is the one thing that you know now that you wish you knew when you started?
That's a good one.
But besides what the price of Bitcoin is going to do.
I think there's a lot of. That's a good question. There's a lot of talk in Web3. A lot of people talk, and this doesn't reflect exactly what's been built on the back end.
Yeah.
So that comes back to trust. So if I was to go back to start crypto again, I would question more who I trusted in this space, and I would probably not give as much trust to those who I listen to so quickly, because unfortunately there are people in this space that tend to do things that probably aren't, in my eyes, morally or ethically right. You know, and that you can take that in any way, shape, or form. But I think for me personally, it's like I want to learn. I would have liked to learn probably a little bit more before following the advice of some people that, upon reflection, probably should have been giving that advice. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it's an easy trap to fall into, especially when you're first starting and trying to learn as much as possible.
Yeah.
You're taking in every bit of information you can get. That's why what you're doing is so important, because it needs to come from a trusted source.
Yeah, and I remember even back in like 18, 19, there was quite 17, 18, 19. A lot of YouTubers, a lot of people fall into the algorithm because they've got more followers and more likes, where they're not always the most honest.
Yeah.
They're buying a bunch of tokens, promoting it to their viewers, and then it pumps and they're dumping all their tokens and they're rinsing
exactly
it
right.
in.
And that's still going on, right? Like, unfortunately, it still goes on, the undisclosed stuff, and that's really sad. A lot of people get burnt. I just think it's just questioning what the incentives are behind the person that's delivering that message. Just questioning that.
I think you should always look at the person, not just the project.
Not the project. I think it's like, I think that's why it's important. Just like even like just being doxed is not enough anymore. You have to look. Okay, we have to give everyone a good chance to be successful. But same time, I think you have to be a little bit more cautious, because at the end of the day, this is your wealth that you are playing with. It's not just anything else. So, awesome. So just before we
just to finish off, Ben, if you could share your socials, website, podcast, whatever you want, mate, and let all the viewers see, and they can jump on and come check it out.
Yeah, I'd love that, guys. So I'm trying to build up my socials a little bit, so you can find me on Twitter at Ben Simpson AU. I just post about crypto, business, and I like personal growth stuff, maybe some sports stuff from time to time as well. I love my sports, so you can head over there. And then I run a podcast with my head of product, Aaron. It's called the Ben and Berg Show, and we talk about, again, business, crypto, and sports. So you can head over there and check that out on the podcast. But thanks so much for having me, guys. It's been fun. And I'm getting on the Gold Coast because I love it up there. It's just a holiday city. I love it.
Be happy to have you.
Yeah, please come down one of these days, and love to catch up here in Gold Coast. So,
of course, if you're ever in Tassie, let me know.
100%. So, just to finish off, so we're going to have our meetup happening on the 7th of February as well. And this meetup is a little bit different. It's a meetup / what Ben just went through is about how we can invest in your business as well. So we're going to have the information is going to come out over the next few days. Friday will be the first day out with all the information. So anyone out there, if you got a project, if you got a business that you need help with in the Web3 space, in the blockchain space, please be prepared with your pitch decks and your pitch, and we'll release some information. So there is no winners or losers. If there are good ideas, we are all in. If there are 50 good ideas, we are pretty much will be looking at all 50 of those projects and companies. So and that's what this meetup's going to be about. So we want to give while others are running away, we really want to go into the fire. I think that's where the magic happens. So guys, on that note, again, it's 7th of February, happening in Gold Coast at the island, and all the information will be out in the next couple of days or so. On that note, thank you so much. And Ben, again, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy man. A lot of things are happening, so thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it. Thank
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place.
Subscribe.